it up. You know, like when you tell them that the last Republican president that balanced a budget was Eisenhower, that pisses them off. They're like, "You're full of shit. Go look it up." You know, or when you comment that, well, yeah, raising the minimum wage every time they've raised the minimum wage, it's acted like steroids for the fucking economy. Well, you know, hey, go look it up. Go find one time where they raised the minimum wage where it didn't help the economy. Go find it, and you can sit there and wait because they're not going to be. It's not. It never happened. These are facts. You know, they're not going to be able to find anything legitimate that's going to disqualify it. And but she deleted this stuff because at some point she realized, oh, this looks like shit. You know, again, they didn't hire her because she was a vaccine professor. They didn't hire her because she was an expert on infectious disease. They didn't hire her because she was an election expert. You know, they hired her because she looks good, she's got big boobs, and she can do action scenes. That's why they hired her. And so she deleted it. Well, they were putting up, it was something where she basically said, you know, that Nazis didn't kill the Jews. It was the neighbors. It was the ordinary people in Germany. And and they were like, well, what's wrong with this? This is historical fact. No, it isn't. Um, Now, granted, the population as a whole stood by and watched. They did. And yes, there were mobs that beat up the Jews. And this is the part that was, you know, and they're like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? And they are basically trying to equate the people that are holding Gina Carano accountable with the Nazis. And I'm sitting there and I didn't even comment. I just let it go because I was tired. I needed sleep. And but the part that got me was when you look at it, um, if you are going to equate the brown shirts in England, I think, and in Italy they were black shirts, but the Nazi brown shirts that went around. This is before the Nazis came into power. It would go around and intimidate people and beat people up. If you are going to, and again, I'm not saying that they're the same, but if you are going to find a correlation between Nazi Germany and modern day America, it's going to be the people on the right. These militia groups, the people with torches that were marching down in Charlotte. I don't know if it was North Carolina or Alabama, but that Charlotte march where they were running with torches saying Jews will not replace us. Those were Trump supporters. Those are people on the right. That's the connection. Not Black Lives Matter, not the other. I mean, that's the connection. The ones that were running around intimidating people to get their way, that was the militia groups. That was the militia groups, not the people on the left. The people trying to overturn a lawfully elected. Well, you can't even blame that on Nazis. That's a completely different thing because, you know, when Hitler came into power, he actually won them at popular. You know, that's something that George Bush Jr. and Trump can't claim to have achieved. You know, Hitler came into power, they overwhelmingly voted for him, but most of the killing, like, you know, the 6 million Jews that they keep talking about, because I mean, and this is the real irony of it. If you look at some of those people that were marching on Washington, there were some of them that were wearing shirts, and it was 6MWNE or something like that. It literally stands for 6 million was not enough. It was a reference to, you know, killing Nazis or Nazis killing Germans. I mean, this was the Trump supporters. These were the people. There was another one, and it might have been the same shirt, but they basically said "work guarantees freedom" or something like that. That was the camp slogan for Auschwitz, I think. And you know, and so for them to actually act like Twitter and Black Lives Matter are Nazis is just fucking ignorant. And I'm looking at these things where they're posting what she said and asking what's wrong with it. And the only thing I could think of was like, if you're so stupid that you have to have it explained to you, you're probably too stupid to understand it. All I can do is explain facts to people. I can't understand them. I just literally can't. And but I do feel bad because I like watching her. I am a fan. I will probably always be a fan. If she can get involved in, but my understanding is her talent agency dumped her. She's been fired. She probably just put a torch to her fucking career, and I think it's sad. Absolutely think it's sad. But if you are looking at the situation and you can't understand why it happened, I honestly think you're either stupid or delusional, one or the other. Maybe she'll join Ronda Rousey in WWE, but I don't even know if the WWE would want to touch her after. Really don't. But, the only thing I can think of is when this talk was going on in World War II, uh, if they had put a stop to it, if the businesses, but they didn't have social media and all that. But if those people had been, like if those people when they started speaking out against freedom and democracy and talking about taking over the German country, if those people would have been fired, if they would have had their life impacted, if they wouldn't have let that stuff go on, World War II might have looked a lot different. There might be a lot more. And if we had done it earlier, like if we had permanently banned, like, well, not even we, Twitter, but if Twitter had permanently banned Trump after he made those horrible, but if Twitter had kicked him permanently off the platform back when he was speaking, horribly about Rosie O'Donnell, calling her a fat pig and all this other shit. I mean, and Rosie was fat. I'm not trying to, but I mean, if they'd have done that, who knows? Maybe the kids wouldn't have been put in cages. Um, Maybe all the people that are dead from the coronavirus, maybe those numbers would be a lot different because we wouldn't have had a President Trump. Um, if you go back to when George Bush Jr. was running against McCain, if they would have, basically said, yeah, that type of speech, you got a right to free speech, but you don't have a right to stupid speech. And if they would have went back and with George Bush, if they had told him, yeah, you can't run ads accusing a decorated Vietnam vet of the shit you're doing, because at Max Cleland, this is a guy that lost two legs and an arm in Vietnam, and the Republican Party made him look like a socialist crack dealer. Uh, they ran ads against John McCain, another veteran. I don't know if he's decorated, but this is a guy. He was tortured. He was in a prisoner of war camp. They basically ran ads, and it's what they call I think push ads. The ad is not there to advertise the truth. The ad is there to lie and mislead and drive people to a wrong conclusion. But they ran these ads, and they didn't say that John McCain had cheated on his wife. They ran these ads asking you, well, how would you feel if John McCain, and you think about the Republican Party. I'm not saying that everybody in the Republican Party is a racist, but if you're a racist, the Republican Party is probably your party. And that's not completely true. There are no absolutes usually, but I mean, more than likely, it's more or less true. But they ran these ads going, well, if John McCain had a colored baby out by cheating on his wife, how would you feel about it? Well, him and his wife had adopted a kid from another country because they're incredibly decent people, and they use that. But hey, if the government would have stepped in and said, yeah, you can't do that. You can't lie about your opponent. Um, McCain might have been the one running. And I don't know if he would have won, but because I don't think McCain would have tried to get his brother in Florida to help him steal the election. But McCain would have been on the ticket, not George Bush. And I think it's high time that we understand that, yes, we have a right to free speech, but we don't have a right to stupid speech.